All she wanted was to make a deposit. But for some people, the color of your skin still matters more than any bank statement. There, in the center of the bank lobby, she was dismissed, humiliated, treated as if she were invisible. But what that employee didn't know was who she was really dealing with, because sometimes what looks like weakness is actually quiet dignity. And those who try to diminish a person from the outside can end up unmasked from within. It was a dreary Tuesday morning in the old downtown area of a major city. The sidewalks were still damp from the overnight mist, and the bustle around Oak Street felt like a familiar routine: suits, heels, a hurried pace. In the midst of it all, a 13-year-old black girl crossed the revolving door of a large bank branch. She wore her school uniform, a navy blue skirt, a simple white cotton shirt, and a plain backpack on her shoulders, and clutched a thin folder to her chest, holding it as carefully as if it were made of glass. Maya Johnson wasn't there to play games. It was the day of her very first bank deposit, $5,000, the amount of a full scholarship she had earned with flawless grades at a private school where few like her were admitted, and even fewer stayed. Her mother, Eleanor, offered to help, of course, but Maya insisted, "I want to do it myself, like a grown-up." Stepping through the main entrance, she felt the cool blast of the air conditioning on her face, and the immediate contrast between the outside world and this place of marble and silence. The bank was vast and opulent, with tall counters and dark wood furniture. People walked with practiced, professional gaits, and the ambient music felt more like a formality than a comfort. Maya took a deep breath, looked around, and approached the service counter. There was a nervous tremor in her steps, but also a quiet pride, the kind only someone who has worked hard for a great achievement can understand. She didn't know it then, but that simple act of walking into the bank was about to become a far greater test than she could have imagined. Maya took her place in line, the folder still clutched firmly in her hands. She observed everything in silence, just as she had done since she was a little girl. On the other side of the counter, the teller, Brenda Clark, was finishing up with an elderly man. Her hair was pulled back tightly, her nails painted a deep red, and her expression wavered somewhere between professional and impatient. The moment Brenda's eyes met Maya's, her demeanor shifted. It wasn't a startle or direct hostility, but that slight pause in her gaze, the subtle arch of an eyebrow, the smile that never quite formed, said it all. Maya offered a smile, trying to maintain a light mood. "Good morning," she said politely as she reached the counter. Brenda didn't respond. She took the check, glanced at it quickly, then looked back at Maya as if the whole situation made no sense. "This amount, is this yours?" "Yes, ma'am. It's my scholarship. I won it in a competition," Maya explained, also offering a piece of paper with her school's name and an official letter signed by the principal. Brenda took the papers, looked over the top of her glasses, and said nothing. She simply stood up and walked to the back with the documents in her hand. Maya stood there, waiting. Behind her, a well-dressed white couple entered. Brenda reappeared to greet them with a cheerful "good afternoon." Maya noticed that Brenda's tone of voice had changed. The smile, too, but she said nothing. That bank felt too big, and she too small to make a fuss. A few minutes passed. Maya remained standing in the same spot in front of the counter, her eyes trying to follow Brenda's movements inside. She gripped the side railing with her left hand, as if for emotional support. Brenda returned, but not alone. She brought with her a manila envelope and a tense expression. She opened the envelope, took out the check, and held it up to the light. She flipped it over, squinted her eyes. She repeated the gesture. The sound of the paper being stretched echoed in the silent lobby. Nearby customers began to watch, some with curiosity, others with a certain discomfort. "An amount like this? For a girl your age?" Brenda said, loud enough for more than one person to hear. "As I said, it's a scholarship. Everything is there, on the school papers," Maya replied, her voice now a little softer. Brenda ignored the explanation. She looked at the security guard, gave a discreet nod with her chin, and muttered, "Just keep an eye on her as a precaution. We've had scams before with letterhead checks." Maya heard. She pretended she didn't, but she felt her stomach churn. She tried to maintain her composure. "Can I use the bank's phone? I need to let my mom know I'm here. I left my cell phone at school." "Unfortunately, we cannot allow personal use," Brenda replied dryly. "Please, have a seat and wait while we complete the full verification." But she didn't offer a chair, and the look she gave suggested she didn't care if the girl waited comfortably. Maya didn't sit. She stayed right there, standing, her dignity resisting, for now. The bank's digital clock read 2:12 p.m. when Maya arrived. It was now almost 3 p.m. She remained standing in the same spot. Her legs were starting to ache, but it wasn't the physical pain that bothered her most. It was the embarrassment. Every new customer who entered the bank seemed to cast a curious glance in her direction. Some looked quickly and turned away. Others stared too long. There was even a hushed whisper. Maya pretended not to see, but every gesture clung to her like a fine, silent, dirty dust. On the other side of the counter, Brenda smiled at a man in a light-colored suit. Maya watched her. Brenda spoke softly, gave a nervous laugh, and slowly slid an envelope across the glass divider. The man nodded, took the envelope and left, discreetly but in a hurry. Maya didn't understand what she saw, but she knew it wasn't normal. Then the security guard, Greg, approached her. "The lady asked me to keep you up front, okay? You can't leave without authorization." Maya nodded with a thread of a voice. "But I'm just trying to deposit a check." "I know, but I have to follow orders." And he walked away. She thought about leaving, but the check was with them. Her documents too, and her mom didn't know any of this yet. Maya felt cornered in a place she hadn't chosen. The agency, so clean, so elegant, now felt like an inverted aquarium. She was the trapped fish, and the others, the glass, watching her. Another 10 minutes passed, then 15. Maya no longer knew how long she had been there. An elderly woman on the sofa muttered, "Is this a bank or a police station?" Another man chuckled. Maya pretended not to hear. But on the inside, something was starting to change. It was no longer just sadness. It was a silent, dense kind of anger, the kind that grows without needing a voice to be heard. If this is giving you a lump in your throat, like it did for me, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to see this, because the story isn't over yet, and the one who tried to diminish a girl on the outside is about to find out who she is on the inside. Maya Johnson wasn't just a student. She was the culmination of a lifetime of sacrifice. The only daughter of Eleanor, a cleaning assistant who worked 2 shifts and studied at night, Maya grew up hearing phrases that sounded like advice, but were really seeds. "Study hard, sweetie. You're going to get into places they never let us in." And she did. At 13, she was accepted with a full scholarship into one of the city's most prestigious private schools. There, she was one of the few black students, almost always the only one in work groups, in presentations, in the spotlight. But that never made her want less. It just made her observe more. The trip to the bank that day had been decided with pride. Eleanor even offered her a ride, but Maya refused. "I want to learn how to do these things. I'm big now." "You've always been big," her mother replied, smiling with tired eyes. While she waited in the corner of the bank, Maya thought about all of this. In her backpack, besides the folder with her documents, was a small, hard-covered notebook. She always jotted things down there, thoughts, phrases, plans. And in that moment, she started to write. Arrived at 2:12 p.m., teller Brenda said she'd verify the check, still nothing. Stares, whispers, security guard told to watch me. She stopped, took a deep breath. She remembered the envelope that Brenda had passed to the man in the light-colored suit. A face she didn't know, but something about the way he acted seemed wrong. She wrote that down too. She even drew the symbol she saw on the man's folder, a crest with gold letters. Maya didn't know exactly what it was, But she knew this wasn't just about a check anymore, and for the first time that afternoon, she didn't feel small. She felt like she was seeing something big, and that no one there suspected she was more than she seemed. It was almost 4 in the afternoon when the bank's glass door opened again. Maya didn't notice right away, but the firm clicks of heels on the marble floor made a few employees turn around. Eleanor Johnson entered with a determined stride, wearing her simple work uniform, a bag on her shoulder, and a neutral expression. She wasn't alone. Behind her emerged Maya's school principal, Ms. Catherine Thompson, in high heels and a light-colored dress, accompanied by a tall, serious man in a black suit, the school's lawyer, Mr. Julian Reynolds. Brenda, who was behind the counter organizing papers, looked up and froze. Miss Thompson walked directly to Maya. "Are you all right, sweetie?" she asked, her voice firm yet affectionate. Maya nodded. Eleanor came right after, placed a hand on her daughter's back, and without a word, glared at Brenda. "Can someone explain why a child was detained here for over an hour without any explanation?" Miss Thompson said, her voice loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. Brenda tried to play it off. "We were just following security procedures, ma'am." Which part of security involves leaving a scholarship student standing for over 60 minutes while documents are handed over to third parties? Mr. Reynolds countered, pulling an ID and a printed legal notice from his pocket. It was only then that Brenda realized the size of her problem. Eleanor said nothing. She simply turned to her daughter and, with a subtle gesture, took the notebook from her hands. Maya wrote everything down, the time she arrived, the names, even what you passed to that man from the other bank. She handed the notebook to the principal. The silence in the branch was thick. Even the sound of the printer seemed to pause for a few seconds. Ms. Thompson leafed through Maya's notebook with attention. She read every note, every detail, Brenda's name, the times, the mention of the envelope, the man in the suit, the crest on the folder. Mr. Reynolds took out a cell phone and showed the manager a photo of the same man, Mr. Scott Miller, an executive from a rival bank, currently under investigation for the misuse of corporate data. Brenda went pale. "You handed internal documents from your own branch to a rival executive," the lawyer said, his tone unwavering. "And you thought hiding it would be easier than treating a child with dignity." She stammered, looking around. She was looking for a way out, but she only found stares. Eleanor, who had been silent until then, took a deep breath and said, "If my daughter were white, would she have had to wait this long?" Brenda didn't answer. She couldn't. The bank's regional manager, alerted by phone, appeared shortly after. Upon understanding the situation, he looked at Brenda and said with firmness, "You are terminated. Effective immediately." The security guard, the same one who had watched Maya for an hour, slowly approached. But now it was Brenda whom he was escorting to the door. Maya didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just looked on with a firm gaze, as if she knew from the very beginning that she was right. Not all violence screams. Some of it whispers softly, disguised as protocol, as caution, as internal procedures. Maya learned early that being correct isn't always enough, that sometimes the world looks at you with suspicion just for existing. But she also understood something else, that the truth doesn't need to yell to win, it just needs to persist. That day, she didn't just get her documents or her check back. She reclaimed something they had tried to take away with their stares, the right to belong. Eleanor, her mother, wasn't invisible. Maya, her daughter, wasn't a glitch in the system. Both were living proof that talent and dignity don't ask for permission. They enter. And sometimes, all prejudice needs to fall is a young black girl standing tall with a notebook in her hands, and the courage to write down what others pretend not to see. If this story touched you like it touched us, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the difference between silence and justice is someone willing to pay attention. Like, comment and subscribe. Stories like this deserve to be remembered and never repeated.